Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, I'm sure you know that this is my deep dive series into the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane. And it's a beautiful deck, it's an interesting deck, and it's still on sale. The color version of the deck is still on sale. Now, I've got two different versions of the deck because I wanted to get an older deck. I wanted to get a deck that I thought was published in the year of my birth. And so I got this deck not when I was born, but in the last 4 years, I got this deck, paid a little bit of money for it, and it's a charcoal gray and white deck. And then I realized that there was a color version printed in about 2003, 2004. So I got that color version so that I could have something that I could use daily, that I could use without worrying about damaging cards, because it's mass market, very good price, and I can buy a new one if I ever needed to. So I use the color version to shuffle and to mess around with, and I keep my gray and white version, charcoal gray and white version, in order and in as pristine condition as I can, because it's sentimental for me. It's something I want to keep. Would be difficult for me to replace. That makes sense, right? So I'm diving into that deck. And what I do every day, just in case you are new here, is I shuffle my colored deck and I draw a card, my daily card of the day. And I take that card and I find the matching card in my charcoal gray and white deck and I look at them. And because this is a new deck for me, I wanted a deck that would be my assistant, my helper deck. And so I do a 3-card draw from that deck. And the deck I'm using for my helper deck for this deep dive series is the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler. And I did a deep dive series into that deck about 6 months ago. And so now I wouldn't say that I'm fluent with the deck, but it is much more comfortable for me. I'm more looking at the images gives me more information than it did when I first cracked open the deck. And also I'm just starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with the zodiac astrological associations with that deck and by extension the continental tarot system. It's not a deck of the Golden Dawn tradition, which is a later tradition than the continental tarot tradition, right? The Golden Dawn tradition is the tradition that produced the decks such as the Waite Smith, the artwork drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith and curated by or requested by Edward Arthur Waite. Anyways, so, and also there's also the Thoth, the Harris Crowley deck. Golden Dawn tradition. The Tarot of the Holy Light is from the continental tradition. You probably already know this. So I use that deck as my helper deck, and I do a 3-card draw. I said that already. And the first card is the energy, the significance, the significator for me for the day. The next card is the challenge. Instead of obstacle, I decided to go with challenge because challenge can have both a positive and a negative meaning. And then the advice or outcome card. So I do that. Take my daily draw, and then after I look at that daily draw, I do my 3-card spread, and then I go to sleep, and then I wake up the next day and I live my day and I come back and I prepare this video for you and for me. And that's what I'm doing. So without further ado, let me show you the cards that I drew for my card of the day from the Egyptian Tarot. Here they are. We've got another set of wands here. Yeah. Up until now, I've had a lot of cups and swords appearing for me. But I've got wands again today. I think I had wands yesterday, have wands again today, and we've got the Three of Wands. Let me show you the cards. Here they are. This is what you just saw, right? We've got the three wands lined up as a triangle, and you can see a constellation above both of the triangles, right? And those constellations look a little different from the color deck and the black and white deck. They're the same constellation, but drawn differently. We've got a few more stars in the color version than we do in the black and white. And so that constellation is none other than the constellation of Perseus. And the Three of Wands points to the Sagittarius decanate of Aries and its subruler, Jupiter, from which the mutable aspect of cardinal fire, vital attributes enter the world through the constellation of Pisces. So what did all that mean? So Aries, of course, has three decanates, the first one being Aries, the second one being Leo, the third one being Sagittarius. Three, Sagittarius. And the planet for Sagittarius is Jupiter. So that's why it's the subruler Jupiter, Jupiter in Aries, which is the mutable aspect of cardinal fire. Cardinal fire is Aries, the mutable aspect is Sagittarius. And again, we've got the constellation. These constellations were organized and associated with the cards by C.C. Zane. So let's begin with the constellation, because that's interesting. It's interesting for a very specific reason. Let me show you the constellation. Here it is. So that was the constellation of Perseus, not Pisces, Perseus. Do you recall hearing the name Perseus in the last few days in this series? Yeah, just a day or two ago, we had the constellation of Circes. Circes? Now suddenly the name is not in my head correctly. Not Circes, Cassiopeia. That's it. The constellation of Cassiopeia. And Cassiopeia's daughter was Andromeda. And Andromeda was chained to a rock because of basically her mother's, maybe hers a little bit, but mostly her mother's vanity. In her mother's words, "I and my daughter are the most beautiful creatures on the planet. We are more beautiful than all of the daughters of the sea god." And that pissed the gods off. So the punishment for Cassiopeia was to have her daughter chained up to a rock. And who happened to save that daughter who was chained up on a rock? It was Perseus. Perseus is one of the consummate heroes in Greek mythology, right? We've got Hercules and Heracles in Greek, and we have Perseus. Perseus rescues Andromeda, and Perseus goes off and lops off the head of the Gorgon, Medusa, the creature who turns men into stone by just looking at her. Perseus is the one who is assisted by none other than Athena, the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of warfare, and the goddess of handicrafts, making stuff. Which is interesting because we're getting the assistance of a handicraft goddess as well as a wisdom goddess in this card. As the constellation of Perseus has entered the daily draw. So we've got all of this wonderful, powerful energy in this Three of Wands card, these wonderful associations of some people want to throw shade on Perseus for having killed Medusa, who didn't really become Medusa of her own free will. She was punished to become the snake-headed monstrosity that she is drawn as by many artists, because another goddess was jealous of her. Right? So these stories are intertwining, and it's a tangled web of Greek mythology. But at the point when she was beheaded by Perseus, she had done a lot of men wrong, right? So that was her final punishment. And so Perseus is there rescuing folk, or at least doing his best to rescue folk as he sees that he can. And what does this have to do with the Three of Wands? the Three of Wands, we've got Aries. Yeah, that fiery Aries, cardinal, moving forward attributes of cardinal fire, which are which are expanded. I don't want to say mutated or softened, but they're expanded by Jupiter. Jupiter is an expansive planet. It's a planet of generosity and abundance and growth and fortune. So that fortune and that direction of the fire through the cardinal sign of Aries is a very powerful and a very beneficent decade of the zodiac, right? So fruitful business partnerships is one of the attributes of the Three of Wands here. Also, a jovial disposition. Jovial, yeah? Jupiter, Jove, jovial. Makes absolute sense, right? A jovial disposition. This is a card for taking action for the future. This is a card for business gains through social interaction. So our interaction with other people also gives benefit to the things we want to do in the world and gives us confidence in ourselves. Now, there's a lot of self-confidence that is not inflated. We don't want to get to inflation in this, I don't think, although in reverse it could be inflation, but we want to feel that expansiveness of self-confidence in this card. And we can hope for ultimate success. That's the direction we're aiming for. And when we think of the Three of Wands in the Waite-Smith decks, what do we see? We see the guy standing on a hill with these three wands looking out over a golden sea, as drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith, a golden sea with ships flowing off into the distance as if this person on the hill has either sent their ships out to explore or to trade in the world, or the ships are coming back after having explored and traded in the world. And it's the first steps of moving in the direction of the plans we have laid out in the Two of Wands. So here we've got kind of that flavor here too, that moving in the direction of ultimate success. Plan to raise our prestige. Our plans raise our prestige, and we plan to raise our prestige. And we're enthusiastic with the work we're doing. We're impassioned by both Aries and the expansiveness of Jupiter. Now, Aries can be a little bit too hot sometimes, right? Now we got Mars as the and I keep losing the cardinal. The cardinal, the direction pointing. Mars, fire, pointing in a direction of moving and forward can be kind of violent if that energy we're encapsulated, we're in a tight space, in the fixed space of perhaps Leo. It could be a very, very tight and fiery, but here we've got an expansion with Jupiter. Did that make sense? Does that make sense? Can you see the echoes between these cards and perhaps a system that you may be more familiar with, or a system that you're more comfortable with? I think a lot of the Threes of Wands throughout the systems have echoes of one another. So that was what my card of the day was, and I was very happy to get this card, especially after the card of yesterday, which was the Queen of Cups. Yes, it was the Queen of Cups yesterday. So moving into this new space of movement forward. And so, but still, I wanted to pull my 3 assistant cards from the Tarot of the Holy Light. And so I did that. And let me show you those cards right now. This deck is just gorgeous. Don't you agree? I love this deck, and I've been focusing on this deck for more than 6 months now, and while I'm not fluent in the deck, as I said, I'm more comfortable with it, and I love it. The more I use it, the more I love it. And what did we get? We got, in order from left to right, the Knight of Wands reversed, we got the Hierophant upright, and then we got the Tower reversed. Now that tower showing up at the end was a little bit unsettling, but starting off, and also frankly, starting off with the Knight of Wands reverse was a little bit unsettling as well, but the Hierophant in the center made sense for me, considering the day that I anticipated I would be having today. And we'll get to that in just a moment, but let's begin with the Knight of Wands. Let me show it to you upright first. What do we have here? We've got the Knight holding his contained urn of fire. Now the page has fire just all over the place in the back. This Knight has the fire contained within the vessel, but it is a very hot burning flame, right? You can see the salamander off on the side, also with a bright flaming aura about it. We got a torch in the hand of this beautiful, beautiful figure of the Knight, and we've got the sun above, so much fire symbolism, so much fire depicted. We got a planet of fire above, just a lovely card. And we got a planet, the sun below, the sun above. And you can see that this is Sagittarius, right? Sagittarius. But this is Sagittarius in reverse, which doesn't make it a bad card. Now, reversed cards in this deck particularly, this is a deck that's designed to be worked with reversals. So every time I shuffle this deck, I flip half of it around and I shuffle, I riffle shuffle. And then I flip half of it around and I riffle shuffle. That's how I do all of my shuffles for this deck. And so reversed cards come out quite a bit, but they're not bad cards. They're not evil cards. They're not cards of warning most of the time. I mean, sometimes they're, be careful, you know, take some precautions, but things will be okay. Of course, when I saw the Tower reverse, that first jolt of, oh my God, the Tower is still here in the back of my mind, but still, these cards in reverse are not bad things. Here we have the Knight of Wands again. This Knight of Wands points to Sagittarius, which I said, which the vital, mutable fire attributes enter into our world through the sign of Sagittarius. And it's interesting, we just had Sagittarius in the Three of Wands before, right? And we're going to see the Aries, which we had in the Three of Wands, appear again in just a moment. But here we're at Sagittarius, the Sagittarius aspect in reverse. Now, in reverse, there is caution to be had here. Now, the Knight of Wands in reverse can be do you know Hotspur? Do you know Hotspur from Shakespeare's Henry IV, both parts 1 and 2? Now, Hotspur, the one that goes off and chases after things and has a fiery temper and is sometimes overreactive and dies primarily because he is a Hotspur. That's what I think of when I think of the Knight of Wands, particularly in reverse. He has righteous indignation, which also Hotspur does in Henry IV, is righteously indignant a lot of the time. He knows he's right, and he knows that he's out to fix things, so he has righteous indignation. He's irrationally, he has an irrationally inflamed temperament. Now, his character can burst into flames, not just because of a slight, because of a remembered irritant. He, of course, she and they, we are all knights. It doesn't matter what kind of bodies we inhabit, whether we are in male bodies, we're in female bodies, we're in trans bodies, we are in bodies in transition, we're in hermaphroditic bodies, whatever we inhabit, we all have the knight, we all are the knight, we all are the queen, we all are the king, we all are the page. We have all of that within us. So the Knight of Wands, and his, her, there, he, she, they may be right. Yeah, their righteous indignation may have a valid seed, a valid kernel within it. But it's the way that they approach expressing it that is problematic. That they blow things out of proportion, that fire just explodes. Yeah? Their indignation can lead to accusations. Rather than problem solving, it's pointing fingers and you got to fix it. And I'm going to make sure you fix it. And or else. Some people think that they have a permanent chip on their shoulders. And they have an inflated, okay, here is some inflation. They have an inflated sense of their own specialness. That is a trap for me, sometimes. That is a trap for me. In perhaps the negative sense. You know how we say that there are shadow aspects of self that burst into light at the least appropriate times? For me, one of those, not everything in the shadows is negative, but some of it is, and one of those things for me, which I don't want to look at. I don't refuse. You see, I'm right here looking at it right now, but that I tend not to want to look at, and I tend not to want to acknowledge, is my internal Knight of Wands-ness. Yeah, my internal sense, my inflated sense of specialness, which I want to pretend does not exist. It's down there, but I don't want to acknowledge it. And sometimes it can explode in righteous indignation from time to time. And sometimes, yes, I am right, but sometimes, but not all of the time. And all of the time, even when I am right, that explosion is unproductive, unhelpful, and hurts me as much and perhaps even more than it hurts those around me in the long run, right? So this was a good warning card for me, a good, not warning like danger, Will Robinson, danger, but the precautionary tale, a precautionary card for me, particularly with this fiery energy of the Three of Wands. So we had this, and right after this, we had the Hierophant, which is the card that I thought this really is speaking to me today. And this is the challenge card. So I have that potential. The first card is the energy and significance, that potential warning, be careful in these situations, was the energy I wanted to carry into the day, and that is flowing from the Three of Wands. But the challenge for me is a positive challenge. It's not a be careful challenge. This is a positive challenge, I think. This is what I want to achieve. This is my North Star for the day. The Hierophant. Who is the Hierophant? Guess what? The Hierophant is, can you see at the bottom, is Aries. So remember, the Three of Wands was Sagittarius decadent of Aries. And the first two cards of my 3-card spread were Sagittarius, Aries. Isn't that wild? You can't make this stuff up. So, but what is this? Look at this Hierophant. This is a fabulous Hierophant card. Not your typical Hierophant. Yeah, the guy up here in the air, legs spread over a flaming planet beneath, with 2 hands pointed, one up towards the sun, one down towards the moon. So we've got the positive energy of the sun and the negative, not being bad, but the yang, yin, positive, negative energy of the moon, the negative energy of the moon. Again, negative, not negative as in good, bad, but as active, passive. Now that kind of positive, negative, the going out positive, the drawing in and opening negative. The convex, concave. Convex being positive, again, not being good, not that kind of positive, but a charge or a thing spinning in this direction, and then the thing that spins in the opposite direction is the negative. Not bad, but negative. So this Hierophant is indicating both positive and negative, both yang and yin. And we've got the 2 lovers beneath. You saw that, right? I keep taking the card away from you. The 2 lovers beneath. We've got the sun and the moon sitting back to back at the bottom in relationship to each other. They're not turning their backs to each other. They're leaning against each other in relation. They're looking over their shoulders at each other. And I think they're looking over their shoulders at each other in an affectionate, leaning on each other relationship. So who is the Hierophant? The Hierophant in this deck, in this system, is Aries. I just said that. So the Hierophant points to Aries, from which these cardinal fire vital attributes enter the world. What are the cardinal fire vital attributes of the Hierophant? Well, it's the leader of education. It's the leader of institution. It's the leader of mentors, the leader of mentees, the mentor to mentees, the teacher to students, the headmaster of doctrine and a temple school. Yeah, remember, when we say temple school, we're not only talking seminary, right? Remember, back in the days of Thoreau's beginning, we were still at the period where universities were beginning, and the queen of all sciences was what? What was the queen of all sciences in the beginnings of universities in Europe? The queen of all sciences was theology. That was the reigning supreme field of study. So that is who this Hierophant is. That's who this teacher is. It's the teacher of the quintessential knowledge for us humans on this planet. This Hierophant is an institution establisher, and opens to students and guides students to a new awareness of who they are. In fact, the Hierophant, if we pair the Hierophant with the High Priestess, the High Priestess is the one who dives, who explores the unconscious and the spiritual within. The Hierophant is the one who opens the doors to initiates, to draw them into an experience of the divine from without, from the exterior. Yeah, the inbreaking of the divine as opposed to the outbreaking of the divine, which are both aspects of the same divine. It's just different, the positive and the negative movement of spirit. And again, negative is not bad, positive is not good. It's just different directions of the movement of spirit. So this Hierophant is the one who guides us to bring the unconscious into consciousness as well. And you see, this Hierophant is able to balance both the yin and the yang, the positive and the negative, the fire and the fire, water, and the air, earth. Yeah, he balances, she balances, they balance. Aries, Taurus, Libra, Scorpio. Yeah, Aries, Taurus, Libra, Scorpio on one hand, and on the other hand, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces on the other. Yeah, these two pairings of planets, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter. This Hierophant in the center, as perhaps Hermes, as Mercury, it balances those energies, plus the sun and the moon. So this is the balancing of things and the opening of things and the drawing in of students and mentees and the teaching and the guiding of them. In a fiery and fixed way, in the Aries form. And then we got the Tower. This was a little disturbing. I've mentioned that before. Let me show you the Tower upright. And it's very similar to both the Terre de Marseille and the Tower card drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith as well, where we've got the Tower cracking open at the top, and we've got the two figures flying out of windows and out of the tower as it begins to burst open. But we do have this interesting fairy up here at the corner, right? I think it's on this side for you. No, it's on the other side for you. It's here, yeah, the fairy here. who is perhaps Sophia, its spirit coming to observe and perhaps guide, or perhaps to initiate the cracking open of the tower. You'll notice it almost looks like there are sunflowers bursting from the center of the tower here for me. That the creative fire can burst forth from the top. However, we got this card in reverse. So while upright, this tower points to Capricorn, from which these cardinal earth vital attributes entered the world. Yeah, cardinal earth is Capricorn, the moving forward of work to a pinnacle. Capricorn is a goat that wants to move to the pinnacle, wants to work hard and succeed, and wants to move forward and conquer. Right? So we got that here as well, but here that energy is being released by a cracking open. It could be Sophia being released from imprisonment, from the imprisonment of the solidity of Earth being cracked open from there. That's one possible reading of this. But it could also be the Tower of Babel myth, where our hubris, now Capricorn can be seen as kind of hubristic. Our hubris needs to be cut down for us to learn, for us to reimagine ourselves as who we are in these physical bodies, in this physical universe. Now, the Tower of Babel is the story of us trying to become God in the physical sense when we are God naturally as we are without doing anything. And it's that building up and becoming a false God that needs to be cracked open and released so that we shatter that illusion of becoming something that we cannot become, because we already are the divine. So instead of inflating ourselves to become the divine, we need to crack open to release our understanding of the divinity of who we are. So there's that Tower of Babel myth that is implicit in this card as well. It's also the cracking open of the I, me, mine ego. Yeah, this is me, I am me, I'm separate from you, I'm separate from the divine, I am me, and I am wonderful because of all of the things I've done in my life, and I am the owner of my experiences, and I am the one who, all of that. This card is the cracking open and a part of that I, me, mine, self-importance, which is ripe for striking down when it becomes too prevalent in our lives. So that's the advice, right? That's the advice for me in this card. Or a potential outcome, maybe, if this takes over. If I'm not careful with this, maybe this will happen. But it could also be the tower can be two things, right? It could be the breaking down of things, or it can be the breaking open of things to release what is being contained. So I think here we can go both ways. If we don't heed the wording, it will be a cracking down and a destruction of the self-importance that maybe I could create with it's right here in front, with this card in reverse especially. Or if I can avoid the pitfalls of this and own myself as this, then it could be a cracking open. And the tower is also sometimes seen as an institution, right? An educational or an institutional structure. An opening of that institutional structure. So it might imply that let me read from the guidebook. When the card is reversed, it might imply the ivory tower is detached theory and educated speculation with no practical experience. Now, there's that one side of it, that the ivory tower it could be the ivory tower of detached education with no practical component to it. And there's a place for that. There's a place for pure theoretical study and experimentation, for physics, for example, well, for any field of study, theoretical exploration is beneficial. But if it becomes completely divorced from the daily lives of both the teacher and the student, then we've gone too far in one direction. We want balance, I believe. But it might also point to the tower of the renunciate, of the hermit, of the cloistered one, of the Juliana of Norwich, the anchorites. Yeah, it could be an anchorite card. Yeah, the renunciate or recluse who walls him, her, or theirselves in to impose spiritual discipline and exclude worldliness. To exclude the worldliness and focus on the more spiritual aspects of experience. So that could be it as well, which would be wonderful if that is it. And that would seem to flow more naturally from the Hierophant card, right? If I can move closer to this, I think that reading of this card is potential. If I fall into the trap of this, then the cracking down of ego in this card becomes potential. Do you see how these two work and how those two potential paths can flow from this very beneficial Three of Wands? Does that make sense? So let me tell you about my day. My foot is falling asleep, but still, let me tell you about my day. Today was a day of the first day of the camp that I'm coming to teach. The students have not arrived yet. The elementary and middle school students have not arrived yet. It's just us teachers and administrators and mentors and all of that. We're all here. We began with a very short orientation meeting, and then we split off into our teaching teams, and we had a little meeting there. So we're beginning the process. And during that orientation meeting, there were opportunities for people to volunteer. And I found myself very uncomfortable with the amount of time it took people to step up and volunteer for stuff. So I found myself stepping up a couple of times, which might have been that Sagittarius, the Knight of Wands reversed. I wasn't completely indignant, but I felt like, well, somebody better do something, Yeah. So I ended up volunteering for a couple of things. I ended up volunteering to be the MC, the Master of Ceremonies, for the opening ceremony. We have opening and closing ceremonies to workshops here and to winter camps. So the opening ceremony of the winter camp, this winter camp, I offered to be the MC for that. I offered to give a speech at the closing ceremony, and I offered to do the interviews for students. When students apply to get into this camp, they do an interview. And some students were not able to do the Zoom interview because of extenuating circumstances. And so they come and they have another chance to do an interview here. So there were a couple of hours of extra interviews to be done tomorrow, and I volunteered to do those. As it turned out, the MC the thing that I volunteered to do as MC was taken off my plate, thank goodness. But still, I volunteered for it. I'm still doing the speech, and I'm still doing the interviews, which actually are going to take more time than doing the MC stuff. As an MC, I would have just gone up and read from the MC's script of, and now we will begin the this, that, and the other thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we will move on to this, that, or the other thing. That kind of an MC. So I don't have to do that, but I'm still giving a speech at the closing ceremony on behalf of all of the teachers. Also, I have to plan for a short demonstration class for tomorrow. because I'm new to this camp. This is my first year teaching at this camp, and they want all new teachers to do a short demonstration class tomorrow. So I needed to prepare for that. I met with the other teachers in my team we're all doing storytelling. Just so you know, we're doing storytelling at the camp. And so the storytelling teachers got together and found out what we were supposed to be doing in class. And yeah, that's what my day mostly was. Planning the short demonstration class, volunteering for extra stuff, and also in the cafeteria, I ended up impressing the woman who is supervising the cafeteria by accidentally speaking a little bit of Korean, and she seemed to be impressed by that and impressed by the way that I took. Now, I don't know if this was going to make sense to you, but we have like a buffet, a cafeteria buffet style, a school cafeteria buffet style, where instead of people handing food over to you, you go and you dish out your own food. And you get a big plate and there are bowls at the end. And so most foreigners would just put everything on the plate. But there was one thing that was like a mixed rice thing at the end. And I put that mixed rice into a bowl like a Korean would, and then went back and got an egg to put on top of that. It's a very Korean thing. And almost all of the rest of us did just put the rice on a plate, but I did that, and she thought that was interesting, and she heard me speak a couple of things in Korean, was impressed by my Korean, and suddenly she was saying, "Oh no, take an extra egg," and "Oh no, here's some extra this," and "Oh, here, do." So I mean, it's good that it felt good making friends with or being complimented by and feeling a relationship developing with the woman who runs the cafeteria, the kitchen of the cafeteria. It might end up that I have to eat more food to keep that relationship going, because in her generous heart, she may cause me to eat a little bit more than I may benefit from, if you know what I mean. But still, it's a wonderful thing. It made me feel good. I didn't go off on anybody, but I did feel like I had to stand up and do things that I thought other people should do, but nobody was doing it. So, well, darn it, I'm going to do it so we can move on, you know? So there were those moments, but I think I was able to avoid most of my reactiveness and move a little bit closer to the direction of the Hierophant, which I want, so that I can have that. And I am a recluse here in a way. Yeah, we are at a school in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around here. There's a small highway rest stop, 15 minutes walk from the entrance to the school campus, which is it's a large school campus. But even walking there, if you get there after 7 o'clock in the evening, almost everything is closed down, because nobody goes through that rest stop much at all. So we really are recluse as a group. But I'm also probably going to be a little bit reclusive as an individual, so that I can do this and I can do a little bit of my own studies while I'm here teaching at the same time. So maybe that recluse, that anchorite aspect of the Tower card, if I do well, could be of benefit for me. Does that make sense? Does this make sense? Am I making sense to you? I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you read these cards differently? Do you have the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light? Let me know. Hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you enjoyed this and other people might enjoy watching this as well. It draws more eyes to the channel. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I tend to do one a day, and I will try to do one a day until the full moon, until the new moon in February. So this series has got a ways to go. We're just beginning. And if you want a reading from me, my email address is below. Send me an email, say, Derek, I want a reading, and we'll work it out for you. And if you want these decks, there will be links below to both the color version of the Egyptian tarot and the Tarot of the Holy Light. So go check out these decks and maybe buy one or both of them. They're beautiful decks. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.